Welcome to the second hour of News and Views right here on Salam Media. It's just gone 15 after 9 o'clock. A reminder that this hour is brought to you by African Muslims Agencies. And now we're going to cross over into the Middle East to look at the situation unfolding there. Our guest is International Relations Analyst, Dr. Oscar van Heerden. And of course, we are looking at the current situation in southern Lebanon, where Israeli strikes has killed one person there. And many people do view this latest agreement with Israel as a surrender of sovereignty. That clearly comes from Hezbollah. Their leader, Naim Qassem, has rejected the framework agreement signed by Lebanon and Israel in Washington, calling it humiliating, shameful, and a surrender of sovereignty for Beirut. Dr. Oscar van Heerden, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. And this, of course, is the latest in the unfolding saga in the Middle East, particularly the issue in southern Lebanon. How does this particular issue then also impact on the latest supposed ceasefire between Israel, United States, and Iran? Welcome, and over to you.
Good morning, Judy, and to your listeners and viewers. Yeah, look, I mean, we know now what the Israelis think of ceasefires. There's a ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza, and the Israelis are still killing and bombing people. There's a ceasefire that is, as you say, with Iran, but we know just yesterday, America bombed and shot and dropped missiles in Iran, and Iran has retaliated. And again, there's this ceasefire, supposed ceasefire, with Lebanon and the Lebanese government. But as you've now reported, people are being killed in southern Lebanon. So the Israelis, it seems, ceasefire clearly means something very different to them. It's clearly not that we must cease the firing. So we must take it with a pinch of salt, this ceasefire. And I think that with regards to the agreement itself, I think yet again, in my opinion, the Lebanese government has been outfoxed by the Israelis and the Americans.
So where do we stand regarding the situation in the Middle East? Every time we hear, I mean, it's become quite a comedy, has it not? At a very, very high cost to not only the people in the Middle East, but the repercussions being felt globally. Every few days, the ceasefires on, agreements have been reached, negotiations are still ongoing, and then the global north and the global south are quite jubilant about it because of obviously the stock market, oil prices, etc., etc., etc. Safety of travel as well, because Iran has retaliated by firing missiles to the UAE countries, and these things just seems, this just seems to be ongoing at the cost of innocent lives. When and how is this going to be resolved?
I think the short answer, Julie, is that it can be resolved when the United States and the State of Israel accept their strategic defeat. They have been strategically defeated. Iran has managed to close the Strait of Hormuz, upset the global markets, has defended itself with attacks and into the neighboring Arab states and so forth, Gulf states. So until such time that J.D. Vance and his negotiating team come to the negotiating table as honest brokers, and honest brokers is that they don't have that much leverage. They thought they would, but they don't. It is the Iranians that have the leverage. And until such time that they negotiate in honesty, then there can be some closure to this conflict, to this chapter. Similarly, with the Lebanese Lebanon deal, I mean, it is so obvious that Israel and America was going to say to the Lebanon government that they will withdraw from southern Lebanon if Hezbollah is disarmed. Now, we all know that is not going to happen. The Lebanese government and military has been incapable over many decades to disarm Hezbollah. In fact, the people of Lebanon, and particularly the people in southern Lebanon, see Hezbollah as a lifeline. Because if it wasn't for Hezbollah to put up some kind of resistance against the Israelis, the southern Lebanon would have been part of Greater Israel by now. Similarly, with Hamas, I think people are beginning to see through the propaganda and the lies that these are terrorist organizations. I think they see the brutality and the evil nature of the Israeli state under the war criminal Netanyahu, with Ben Gvir and Smotrich, far-right conservatives that have no regard for Palestinian lives. People are beginning to see through that fog of war, and are saying that these organizations that they have branded terrorists, people are beginning to see that actually they are putting up some kind of resistance to the unimpeded behavior of the Israeli state. And so it could be far worse, both in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as in southern Lebanon, if we did not have resistance in the form of Hezbollah and Hamas, which of course, to a certain extent, is supported by the Iranian government, because the Iranians understood, just like they supported the ANC during apartheid South Africa, they need to support these resistance movements to be pushed back for the state of Israel.
So, Dr. van Heerden, do you suppose that the Americans are playing for time till the midterms? The midterm elections are around the corner, and they're just waiting to see how those results will, work in their favor or against. Do you think it's about that, or much more than just the midterms?
The midterms, I think Donald Trump knows that the midterms is already anti the Trump administration, because he promised to get out of forever wars, and yet he is finding himself smack in the middle of it. Picking fights with Venezuela, picking fights with Ukraine and Russia, picking fights now in Iran, upsetting the apple cart in Cuba and in Greenland, and. So he knows that the midterms is going to be against him. I think the Democrats are going to certainly win the House, possibly even the Senate, which will spell disaster for him. I think they are buying time, Julie, not so much because of the November election, because that's still a little bit far off. More importantly, they have been running out of strategic munitions in terms of air defenses for Israel, but also in terms of air defenses in the Gulf states themselves. You would recall sometime during the conflict with Iran, they had to even go and take certain Patriot systems and so forth from South Korea to bring it to the Persian Gulf. So there is the military industrial complex and the factories of munitions are working overtime. They have been asked to work double time to produce more missiles in a shorter period of time. And I think that what we are seeing is indeed delaying tactics with Iran, so that when they have yet again a bit of a stockpile of missiles, Patriot missiles, air defense missiles, and so forth, they will try and go for phase 2 of the war.
Clearly, Iran is not asleep on the strategy of America and Israel. I should imagine they too are planning and preparing themselves for the possibility of phase 2 raining down on them.
No, absolutely, and it's a question of playing chicken, Because as we've now been saying, it's about the global market. Everyone is feeling the pinch. We here in South Africa are feeling the pinch with the petrol prices and diesel prices and so forth, food prices that goes up and so on, the knock-on effect. All over the world, there's a problem and a shortage of fertilizers. So the agriculture and food security is being threatened. It's about who's going to blink. Everyone around Trump has been saying to Trump, you have to end this war. You have to stop. The Strait of Hormuz has to open. And indeed, they made a valiant effort. They sent the delegations.
Okay, we've just lost Dr. van
Hear
Heerden.
me?
It is 9:26, but I hear his voice in the background. Are you with us, Dr. van Heerden? Oh, there you go.
Yes,
Please
sorry.
continue.
So everyone is saying this has to end, this has to stop. But at the same time, he has so much pride and vanity that he cannot bring himself to actually accept the terms that the Iranians are putting on the table. And of course, in the background, Netanyahu is constantly baiting and wanting to disrupt, whether in southern Lebanon or whether in Iran itself. And so the Iranians are saying to the Americans, the only way this is going to stop is if you reel in the Israeli war criminal Netanyahu. If you cannot tell the Israelis to stop what they are doing in Gaza, but also in South Lebanon, then unfortunately we are going to have a situation where the world economy is going to suffer even more.
So there are also elections that are upcoming in Israel. We're hearing that not Zionists, but ordinary peace-loving Jews are also not happy with the status quo regarding Netanyahu's government and the brutality with which they have obviously destroyed Palestine. Their eyes are now on Al-Aqsa and, of course, their illegal actions in Lebanon as well. Do you think that a change in government in Israel, if it comes to that, would make a difference as far as the situation for the Palestinians and the Lebanese is concerned?
Yeah, I think, Julie, you and I know the answer to that. I mean, it is a question that we must ask, but we have had successive Israeli governments. Yitzhak Rabin, Katz, Netanyahu, times 5, etc., etc. It is not going to change. This is, Israel has found themselves and have painted themselves into a corner where, unfortunately, the continuation of the existence of Israel is going to be permanently premised on permanent war. Permanent war with Iran, with Turkey, with Lebanon, with Syria, etc., etc., with Iraq, and so on. It is the only, they've painted themselves in a corner. The adage that Israel is a safe haven for Jews is a misnomer. It is the most dangerous place for Jews at this current time in our history, thanks to the war criminal Netanyahu.
Let's look at the situation in Lebanon. Clearly, Israel has its eyes on Lebanon. And I think the rest of the Arab neighbors in the Middle East shouldn't sit very comfortably, because if his eyes are on Lebanon, if Israel is wanting to illegally occupy Lebanon as well, their tentacles will go further and further and further. I think the whole idea or the master plan is to usurp as much of Arab lands as they possibly can. So the rest of those little fiefdoms and kingdoms in the Middle East are not necessarily safe from Netanyahu's greedy paws, are they?
No, exactly. I mean, if you look at the Greater Israel Project, this is exactly what's going to happen. Israel will take more and more and more. They want to be the regional hegemon. They want to be able to act with impunity. No one must be able to meet them militarily. And this is why they have been stewing this war with Iran. I mean, you would know Netanyahu has been wanting this war for more than 40 years, constantly trying to bait America and say the Iranians are a problem. And the reason is because they knew that Iran can be that counterweight to Israel hegemony in the region. And now we've seen it. Because of this massive miscalculation, they thought that if they can, you know, decapitate the leadership, kill the supreme leader, people will rise up, Iran will fall, the Shah will come back, and so on and so forth. None of which has happened more than 120 days later in this conflict. In fact, both Israel and America find themselves on the back foot. The Gulf states have seen what has happened. One or two of them, particularly the Qataris and perhaps the Saudi Arabians, they would have wanted to see an Iran fall, but their eyes have now opened. They are dealing with a very different animal in the form of Iran. And so they've seen how America has abandoned them in terms of security. They've seen that the priority is to protect Israel and Israel only. And so I think it is going to, what has happened post this conflict, not that it is over yet, but there's going to be some serious realignment that's going to happen. I think that the Abraham Accords is dead in the water. They're not interested in it. I think that the Gaza situation is going to come back high on the agenda because whilst this war, this fog of war has been happening with Iran and South Lebanon, the IDF, the most moral army in the world, has been pursuing the genocide and continuing the killing and the murder and the starvation of the Palestinians in Gaza. So, you know, the reality here is that Israel, even if there's a change of government, it's not going to change track because there's this existential threat from all over, including Iran and increasingly now also Turkey. And America, unfortunately, I think what's going to happen, Julie, is that they set out to have regime change in Iran, but unfortunately the regimes are going to change in Israel and the United States.
And that's where we leave it. Always a pleasure talking with you. Your very deep insights on matters political, particularly in the Middle East. Till the next time, keep safe, God bless, and nice chatting. It is exactly 9:33. We're moving along the second hour of News and Views, which is brought to you by African Muslims Agencies. Do stay with us. We still have one or two very interesting interviews to get through for the morning.